Every now and then when I'm going through the web, I often find a couple of things that interest me a lot. Maybe it's a new company that's making certain figures, or maybe it's a small production house that is making a film of sorts that piques my interest. Or maybe I'll just even find some multi-million-dollar films from the big name studios that I didn't know about before I came across them on the web. And every now and then I'll even find creations from smaller creators. And that kind of brings me to the video that I'm making right now. Hello everybody, today we're going to be talking about a small comic that I found not too long ago. And by not too long ago I mean almost 2 months ago, oh my god. Today we're going to be looking at Slash Comics' Makara. Now what got me interested in this one-shot, note to self, this is a one-shot, is probably the image that they decided to use to promote the comic. This one still full-page splash from the comic itself. And I gotta say, because they posted it on a couple of kaiju groups, and when I saw it, I thought someone was posting news in regards to some of the Monstrous Titans. Like, you look at this image, and I immediately thought, is that Mokele from the, oh wait, give me a minute. So yeah, when I initially saw the image, I thought it was potentially a new comic from the Monsterverse describing Mokele simply because the illustration itself kind of looks like how the monster was described in the official novelization. By the way, this is for another video. Stay tuned for that, comic readers. So yeah, that's what got me really interested to check out this comic. And then when I read into it a little bit more, it turns out that the comic was made from a Sri Lankan Sinhalese artist. And I think it's pretty obvious where I'm going with this. So yeah, you have an artist of the same nationality as me, and they're doing a comic of one of my favorite genres. Of course I have to check it out. But you know, I would very much appreciate it if you guys checked out this comic. But yeah, in this video we're just gonna go through it real quickly because, again, I would much rather you guys check it out. So I'll leave links down in the description, one to Slash Comics' official social media, and 2 links to the comic itself. One of them is going to be in the native language of Sinhalese, and the other is going to be in English. And you know, I don't speak Sinhalese. That is a story I will never get to. But yeah, let's talk about Makara. So yeah, immediately we should probably address that this comic is going to contain some heavy subjects, you know, abuse, specifically physical and emotional, drug and alcohol abuse, eating disorders, blood, gore, mental health topics, physical violence, cursing, profanity. You'll see what, yeah, suicide and self-harm. And then there's like the last 2 warnings, which after reading this comic about twice, doesn't really have anything like that from what I could remember. Although there is like some Lovecraftian H.R. Geiger kind of moments, so maybe that's where the warning comes from, since H.R. Geiger's art is very suggestive, to say the least. So here we have the name of both the artist and the author of this comic, Jeewaka. So the story starts off the coast of Sri Lanka, where we see a ship setting down a drone submersible. Anyways, the submersible has 2 pilots, and it seems that one of them isn't very familiar with the iconography or the history of Sri Lanka. Anyways, the drone pilots go down to a part of the ocean floor that seems to have been once above ground. They seem to be in an area that was once part of the greater island of Sri Lanka before something made it sink down. Anyways, the submersible continues to explore this sunken part. So it's very clear that these pilots don't know what they're looking at, as they continue to have banter about being archaeologists and how they literally say, "Where are we?" Anyway, it's very clear that both of these pilots don't really have a grasp of history, nor do they really know what they're looking at. But it does seem like one of them was informed by their employer. That pilot would proceed to say, part of Sri Lanka that went underwater or something. They only told me one thing. Before this sank, there was a king. That king had a golden trident of great value. Everyone else in that kingdom went crazy on that trident and killed each other. And then it would be later revealed that the people in this kingdom kind of had a free-for-all and killed the king in the process. And perhaps whatever power this trident held, which we'll find out very soon, ultimately sank this part of the island. Anyways, the drone submersible goes further into the ruins before they finally find what they were looking for, the golden trident in that legend itself, put within the eye of a mural of a Sri Lankan-style dragon. And hence one of the pilots even utters the name of the comic, Makara, which is soon identified to be the Sri Lankan word for dragon. The pilot even goes on to say this, "Oi, this is a Sri Lankan dragon. It's one of those hybrid animal things our old people used for art in temples and stuff, unlike the ones you call dragons from movies." So clearly they're talking about chimeras. Anyways, it's implied that the submersible managed to grab the trident and quickly shoots for the surface. However, something goes awry. It seems that someone has hijacked the submersible. There is no signal, the camera feed is off, and the submersible is lost. Or so we think. We return to the shores of Sri Lanka itself. We see people just having a good time. Anyways, we see in the background that something is shooting out of the water. One person who's at the scene notices it, and before they could really react, it crashes down. But very soon, that turns out to be the least of their worries, because soon following the crashing drone is a tsunami that hits the coast of the island. The wave is so large and fierce that it actually makes its way through one of the populated cities. And it's very clear that the author of this story was drawing some inspirations from a very real event, that being the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, which, in case you don't know, back on December 26th of 2004, an earthquake struck the west coast of Sumatra, Indonesia. Was reported to be of a magnitude of 9.2 to 9.3. One of the most powerful earthquakes in our modern history. The resulting earthquake caused a tidal wave, a tsunami, to go throughout the Indian Ocean. And sadly, because the Indian Ocean is home to a lot of tropical locations, and because this happened in December during the winter vacation, the coasts were lined with way more people than usual. The death toll from this earthquake, from this disaster, was a lot higher, making it one of the most deadly earthquake and tsunami disasters that has ever happened. But of course, this disaster would soon be overshadowed by the 2011 earthquake that struck Japan. So after that major disaster, some time would pass. It's not exactly known how long it's been. Anyways, we see a military ship potentially in the same place as the last ship with the submersible. They seem to be heading towards Sri Lanka to provide some aid. However, they would never arrive, as the ship is attacked by something below the waves. We then catch up with a small family. A young girl is calling out to her dad, and her brother is looking for him as well, asking if she's seen him, and she points out to the ocean to where she thinks he's fishing. Now, the brother isn't really too jazzed about this because the tsunami is still kind of fresh in their minds, and, you know, aftershocks and whatnot. But it seems that another earthquake might be the least of their dad's problems, because as we catch up with the dad himself, he seems to be fishing before something comes out of the water. It's Makara, and honestly, like, this image itself just reminds me so much of Lovecraft. It's honestly really cool. And like Lovecraft, this creature seems to be so beyond the comprehension of this father character that something seems to be growing in his eye, and yeah, I think we could deduce what happened. Anyways, as the brother is trying to find their father, they get a call from their other brother, who happens to be the drone pilot that we heard of earlier. We catch up with the drone pilots in one of the cities, where they meet up with their employer. Anyways, one of the drone pilots apologizes to their employer, saying that yes, we managed to find what you were looking for, but things happened. But then the employer intrudes on something quite peculiar. No, you don't worry. You did what must be done. What happens, happened. And what's mine is mine, as the employer pulls out the trident itself. The employer then reveals that it was him that hijacked the drone. So basically what I think happened is there was another vessel in the water. Anyways, they managed to hijack control of the drone, grab the trident, and then, using the trident, trigger a tsunami. Knowing of this, the two pilots are horrified. One of them is more concerned about their drone being taken from them, I guess you could say, while the other is like, so you just killed all those people, huh? And the drone pilot who's like really not jazzed about their drone being hijacked just starts speaking like an old English sailor, to say the least. And their employer takes this kindly. He appreciates the feedback and kills the drone pilot. Anyways, the employer then uses his trident again and summons Makara. And Makara's design in this is honestly pretty cool. The best way I could describe it is if you took Giant Monster from that comic series, I forget who written it, but I'll put it up, with Shin Godzilla and an elephant. And honestly, this thing just looks, it looks freaky. It looks pretty cool. And you know, this kind of goes into another topic that I want to touch on later on, but it's always so nice to just see when people just kind of go off the beaten path rather than going with something that works. They just experiment a bit. And what makes Makara so cool is that they used the base of an elephant, gave it some marine features, and also, since this is supposed to be a Sri Lankan version of a dragon, they also gave it like some reptilian details here, like scales, tails, and fins. It's honestly a pretty cool design for the little that we see of it, because as soon as Makara makes his way to shore, his face gets blown up by the local military. And this is where the Shin Godzilla elements of this story really comes in. You just get these shots and angles of blood just spilling out of Makara's face. Some large chunks of flesh just crushing cars. And you also see some of the blood splattering onto the eyes of onlookers. And then you have this absolutely gruesome shot of Makara's face being half blown to bits. And Makara, in typical kaiju fashion, takes kindly to this offense by unraveling its trunk, and it seems to be sucking air in. And of course, you have this really awesome shot, the very image that made me want to check this out. And yeah, I'm kind of glad I did. And with another reference to Shin Godzilla, we have Makara shooting out some blood, which kind of goes back to either the deleted scene of Shinagawa-kun spitting out blood, or the fourth form spitting out that black smoke before igniting it into his atomic breath. Anyways, Makara starts sucking in a lot of air through his trunk and then blasts it back out with such incredible force that an entire city block is just gone. And the boss is just T-posing this like, yes, yes, and then boom, crash, everything like cuts to black. When one of the drone pilots wakes up, he seems kind of dazed, and he finds his employer being impaled by the very trident he asked to get. But of course, in this comic, there's always a bigger problem, because as he's trying to regain his bearings, Makara shows up once again, staring him down. The drone pilot then gets a call from his little sister. However, when he picks it up, something is not right, because all of a sudden, his sister starts speaking cryptically and in various different languages before his phone explodes. It's not his sister. It's Makara communicating to him, and the voices get so strong that he reaches out for the trident. Before he could grab it, his employer grabs him by the hand, and then when he does that, something happens. The drone pilot has a vision of himself at the bottom of the ocean, where an H.R. Geiger Lovecraftian nightmare reaches out to him. It's clear that this is a repeat of the legend that he stated before of the king and his kingdom going mad with the golden trident and everyone killing each other to gain it. And as these bodies keep piling on, they start to meld and fuse to form the shape of Makara itself. And when we have a close-up shot of the drone pilot himself, he's slowly becoming a H.R. Geiger nightmare himself. And then he wakes up. Clearly some time has passed. He's on a raft in the middle of the ocean. Or at least, that's what I think. With whatever he has left, he grabs the trident that's also on the raft and throws it to the ocean, and then proceeds to plead for forgiveness from God. And it seems that his prayers have been answered, but not from whoever he was hoping for, but by something way more sinister. And yeah, that is Makara. Honestly, I love stuff like this. I highly suggest you guys check it out. If there's only one problem I have with this comic, because again, this is just a one-shot, is the fact that it is a one-shot. I definitely think that this comic could do so much more if it was a multi-issue series, because it definitely feels like the pacing of it is really fast, or the timeline of events is just very compressed. I'd say that's like my only grievance with this. I think another problem that I have is how some of the humans are drawn. But then again, I've seen some of the other art that this artist has done, and it seems that he has gotten over that hurdle. So yeah, I'm honestly really excited to see what else this creator makes. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about this. And I do hope that I could do more videos like this, just exploring pieces of media that's out there. And yeah, I think this is a nice starting point for that. But yeah, as I said, links to everything regarding the series, Slash Comics' social media itself, 2 links to the comic itself, one in Sinhalese, the other in English. Check this out, support the creators, and hopefully they'll take this even further than what they've done thus far. But yeah, that is the video. And if there's anything else you guys want me to check out, like small content or even like full-blown series, feel free to leave a comment down below, and who knows, maybe I'll check it out. But yeah, check out Makara, support smaller creators, and yeah, I will see you all in a later video. Till next time, everybody.